listening to Denali, the Great One.
The Great One.
And you can call in now, 877-381-3811.
Representative Elise Stefanik is really a terrific representative. I don't know all her politics and political views and all, but when I watch her, she's sharp, she's solid, she's principled. So it's nice to have you on the program. How are you?
Great to be with you, Mark.
Well, you're coming under a lot of attack these days. You know that better than anybody. At Harvard, at the Times Union of Albany, ABC News, Matthew Dowd. What are they saying about you, and why do you think they're doing this?
Well, they're attacking me because I'm standing up for my constituents and the Constitution. This is nothing new. Republicans and conservatives have faced the endless attacks, especially over the past 4 years, as there was growing grassroots and voter support for President Trump. And the attacks really started against me when I stood up for the truth, the Constitution, the American people, and the president during the sham impeachment hearings a year ago, the first impeachment under Adam Schiff's regime of secrecy. Now I'm being attacked by Harvard, where I actually graduated from as an undergrad, and I always joke and tell my constituents that's not the achievement, graduating from Harvard. The achievement is staying a conservative. But because I objected to the Electoral College votes in 4 states, they chose to kick me off the board of the supposed Bipartisan Institute of Politics. Now, it is not a bipartisan board. It is now 100% made up of Joe Biden voters. So it's more of the same that we're seeing of cancel culture on our college campuses. And it really is an attack on the student body and academic freedom. But I will always stand up for my constituents, my district, and the Constitution.
And I want to thank you for that. It is amazing what's going on, the amount of repression in this country right now, and the attack on speech by these organizations that effectively are surrogates of the left and the government. And you have newspapers that are actually cheering this on. I mean, you have CNN, which is some of their hosts, or at least one of them, is demanding that these cable companies take Fox off the air. And you have a newspaper in Albany that was particularly outrageous. They let this leftist and this pro-abortion guy write a piece basically trashing you and your husband, correct?
That is correct. This was really gutter politics. My husband and I were a young married couple. You know, I was 30 years old when I was first elected to the United States Congress as the youngest woman ever elected. We have not been blessed with children. We hope to be blessed with children, and they allowed someone under their masthead to attack us as childless. Now, imagine if that attack happened against a liberal Democratic member of Congress. It would be on every single network news for weeks on end. We called out the paper. They quietly took it down. They have yet to apologize. But this is the double standard that we see every single day in the media when it comes to how they treat conservative women versus how they treat liberal women.
It is amazing. I mean, you don't have to support Sarah Palin. I did. But they talk about the first woman vice president and so forth. They didn't want the first woman vice president when her name was Sarah Palin. They didn't want the second black Supreme Court justice when his name was Clarence Thomas. What they're talking about is liberal women, liberal minorities. That's really what they're pushing for. ABC News, you have this guy Matthew Dowd, who's sort of Republican reprobate, or at least he was a Republican. And he says, you're an example why you shouldn't just elect women or millennials to Congress. What do you make of that?
Well, Matt Dowd had to apologize very quickly, and ABC News should have removed him as the political editor or whatever his position is. The good news is, Mark, it's meaningless when you talk to voters. When I talk to my constituents, they're focused on my job representing them in Congress. They don't pay attention to these never Trump tweets from people like Matt Dowd. But Matt Dowd did have to apologize, and it's just growing out of touch with the American people and how frustrated they are with the chattering cocktail class that's in the Beltway. Again, I'm voted into office by my constituents, not by elites who spend their entire days on Twitter. And I'm very grateful for the support for all of my districts.
Now let's talk about some of this. You have a president who is signing executive orders like he's a king. These aren't executive orders simply aimed at reversing what President Trump did. These are substantive pieces of legislation that they call executive orders, one after another after another. He barely takes any questions from anybody unless it's all scripted. He's going around Congress, and that is violating separation of powers. You have the President of the United States also apparently has no problem with open borders, stops the wall. He has the power to stop a pipeline in the middle of it being constructed, even though it has nothing to do with pollution, the opposite, because obviously, trucks and trains have more accidents and the potential for pollution. He's pushing with this COVID bill $15 minimum wage. Now, they have $15 minimum wage in a lot of metropolitan areas, but in a lot of suburban areas and rural areas, they do not. And they simply can't afford it, or these little businesses are going to go under and so forth. What do you make of this imperial presidency?
Well, I think President Biden holds a record, and on his first day in office, he issued more executive orders by far than any other previous president, Democrat or Republican. This is because they have to appease the far left, this march towards socialism. When it comes to the Keystone XL pipeline decision, that on day one destroys thousands and thousands of good-paying jobs, particularly in a very challenging economy as we work to beat COVID. In addition, the stopping of the construction of the border wall, there historically has been bipartisan support for increased border security. It's only become recently that the siren song of the left has been open borders. That is not where the American people are on these issues. And I also think the American people are waking up to the media just fawning day after day over President Biden and Vice President Harris, whereas we just had 4 years of the media opposing and really undermining the Trump presidency, not focusing on fair questions or the results that this previous administration worked to deliver. So I think we're going to see more of one-party rule from the left and from this administration, but I think that gives Republicans an opportunity as we head into 2022 that will be similar to the wave we saw in 2010.
Here's my concern. Their agenda, and I talked about in this first hour of the show, their agenda is intended almost exclusively to empower the Democrat Party. H.R. 1, all those changes are intended to make the Democrat Party a permanent majority party, as they did in California, as they try to do in New York. The changes in the Senate, which they hope to make, again, intended to empower the Democrat Party. The changes that they want to make to the courts, again, intended to empower the Democrat Party's agenda, get rid of the filibuster if they could, empower the Democrat Party's agenda. In other words, it seems to be party empowerment first and country second. How do you see this?
I agree with you. I think the Democratic Party is putting their party first over governing for the American people. Joe Biden and the administration can give as much lip service as they want to being bipartisan, yet every action that they've taken since he was sworn into office has been empowering the Democratic Party and not reaching out to Republicans. I know today he invited those 10 Republican senators, but immediately they put out a statement criticizing the proposal that the Republican senators put out regarding a more balanced COVID relief bill rather than a $1.9 trillion wish list, which you said included, and you're correct, a $15 minimum wage, which would devastate economies in rural America that are suffering already during the COVID pandemic. So I do think this is about coalescing further power. You can look no further than New York State. We see it every single day with the worst governor in America, Governor Cuomo. It is about the Democratic Party over the people of New York, and I think we're seeing that trend at the national level with President Biden.
And look at the schools. I mean, Biden and his chief of staff basically back the teachers union because they provide 2.2 million precinct workers. Now, I saw a study over the years about 35% of the teachers are Republican, but the vast majority are not, and the vast majority are rather left, and the leadership is radical left. And so this is why they oppose school choice, big civil rights issue as far as I'm concerned. You talk about equality or equity, and also he doesn't want to turn off the teachers. In fact, in that COVID-19 bill, correct me if I'm wrong, there's like $250 million for the schools. They already passed like $70 billion, and most of them are closed.
Yes, we actually have passed, as you said, upwards of $70 billion in previous COVID packages directly to school districts. I'm very proud in school districts in my district. Our teachers have done a tremendous job making sure that students can learn in person. And it was interesting when they surveyed parents, most school districts, over 90% of parents said they want their kids learning in school. They saw during the remote learning last year that you had very concerning statistics. Kids were not getting the academic rigor that they deserve. You saw increases in child abuse cases. You saw increases in neglect. You saw increases in students who completely were no longer in touch with the school district, or parents that did not respond to the school district. Our kids need to be in school, and I think it's a travesty that the administration is siding with the teachers union in Chicago and not the students. We should be focusing on our students and young people to make sure that they get access to the best education, because this is going to have a lasting effect. You know, you learn so much at every grade level, every month of school to continue your academic pathway towards success. So I really credit those parents who are speaking out on behalf of their students, because we know the unions aren't prioritizing the students.
Tell us, and I'm not familiar, your district includes what towns?
So my district, I represent the North Country in New York. It's 40% of the geography of New York State. It is north of Albany. It starts in Saratoga County. It goes up to the Canadian border, and then it goes to Watertown. So I have almost all of the Adirondacks. It's very rural.
Wow.
I have some suburbs, but I spend a lot of time traveling the district, meeting with constituents in small towns and villages throughout the Adirondacks.
Well, I don't think they could do better with a representative than you, if I may say so, just looking from afar, and I want to wish you all the best of luck.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Thanks for the opportunity to allow me to talk about the North Country.
You got it. God bless, and take care of yourself.
You too. Thanks.
There is a young person, a young lady, you can tell, very classy, very articulate, very intelligent, who's a conservative. So they try to destroy her, who opposed impeachment and was one of the most effective people fighting it in Congress. So they got to take her out. She raised serious questions about those 4 battleground states that we have raised here over and over, purely on constitutional grounds. And she's right. We're right. I'm right. And for this, again, they have to try to destroy her. This is Marxism. They don't want debate. They don't want ideas. They want power. I've told you that for years. That's what it's all about, power.